Austin Webb didn't even glance in my direction when I walked into the conference room. He just kept scrolling through his phone like I wasn't standing there with my employee badge clipped to my blazer and the fatigue from 12 straight hours of server maintenance still weighing on my shoulders. The room smelled like stale bagels and that artificial vanilla air freshener someone insisted on spraying every morning. I stood there, arms loose at my sides, jaw set. My name's Ivory Camden. I'm 34 years old. I live in Parketon, Ohio, and until about 5 minutes ago I thought I had job security. He finally looked up, his expression blank and rehearsed. Ivory, thanks for making time. This won't take long. I didn't sit. Not until he gestured lazily toward the chair across from him and said, "Have a seat." The moment I lowered myself into that chair, he spun his laptop around to face me. On the screen was a timestamp from the security feed. It showed me walking toward the employee lounge, coffee mug in hand, heading away from my workstation. Care to explain this? Austin asked, tilting his head like he was conducting some kind of interrogation. I glanced at the screen, then back at him. That's me going to refill my coffee during my scheduled break. He leaned back, fingers steepled like he'd watched too many boardroom dramas. You weren't at your station. According to the logs, you were offline for 14 minutes. My break is 15 minutes, I said evenly. I clocked out. It's all documented. Austin's lips twitched into something that wasn't quite a smile. We had a systems alert during that window. No one could locate you. The network team needed immediate assistance and you weren't available. I kept my hands flat on my thighs to stop them from clenching. I'm not on call during breaks. That's policy. The alert was a false positive from the firewall update I pushed the night before. It auto-resolved in 6 minutes. I logged the incident this morning before you even got here. He waved a hand dismissively. That's not the point. The point is visibility. Accountability. We're restructuring the IT department to prioritize people who are present when needed. I hit every metric this quarter, I said, keeping my voice level. I reduced server downtime by 23%. I streamlined the backup protocols and rebuilt the entire database indexing system from scratch. All of that is tracked and documented. Austin gave me that same smug look his father probably gave people when closing deals. We're moving toward a more efficient model. Leaner teams. We're only keeping personnel who demonstrate consistent, visible engagement. I blinked. Visible engagement? Exactly. The kind management can see. The kind clients notice. What are you telling me, Austin? He straightened his collar. We're terminating your employment effective immediately. Reason: failure to maintain operational availability standards. Just like that. No performance review. No documentation trail. No HR present. Just him sitting there in his pressed shirt and designer watch, delivering a scripted death sentence to my career. I stared at him for 3 full seconds, making sure I didn't say something that would get me escorted out by security. Then I stood, pushed my chair in with deliberate calm, and walked out without giving him the satisfaction of a response. I counted my steps down the hallway. 1, 2, 3, 4. Past the break room where I'd apparently committed the sin of being human. Past the cubicles where my coworkers typed away, oblivious. The office buzzed with the usual midweek energy. Phones ringing. Keyboards clicking. Austin stayed in that glass-walled conference room like he'd just completed a routine task. My badge was still around my neck. No one stopped me. No one even looked up. I walked straight out the front doors and into the parking garage without breaking stride. It was overcast, the kind of gray October afternoon that makes everything look washed out. I didn't feel the cold. Not yet. I just kept moving. My car was parked on the 3rd level, tucked between an oversized SUV and a sedan with a cracked taillight. I climbed in, shut the door and sat in the silence for exactly 10 seconds. Then I opened my laptop. It powered on instantly. Custom hardware, optimized operating system, encrypted partitions. One of the many inefficiencies I'd supposedly wasted company time perfecting over the last 6 years. The VPN connected on the first attempt. My administrative credentials were still active. Of course they were. Austin probably thought firing me was just a formality, a checkbox on his quarterly review. He had no idea what I actually controlled. He had no concept of how deeply embedded I was in every critical system that kept Crestline Solutions running. While the admin dashboard loaded, I reached into my bag and pulled out a protein bar. I'd kept a stash in my car for late nights and emergency server fixes. Today felt like both. The infrastructure I'd built over the years hummed quietly in the background of that company. Predictive maintenance algorithms, automated backup systems, real-time threat detection protocols, client data synchronization across 4 regional offices. I'd designed it all during nights and weekends, during so-called downtime, when management thought I was just checking emails. I didn't build a backdoor to be vindictive. I built it 18 months ago after we nearly lost everything to a ransomware attack. One of the vendors got compromised and we caught it just in time. I saw how fragile everything was underneath the polished surface. The emergency rollback system I designed was supposed to be a safeguard. A reset button behind glass, meant only for catastrophic scenarios. Today qualified. I pulled it. No alarms sounded. No warning messages flashed across my screen. Just me sitting in my car, entering the encryption keys I'd memorized years ago. The rollback initiated in under 40 seconds. I watched the progress bars move with mechanical precision. Every optimized module I'd built began disappearing, replaced with the clunky, outdated systems the company had cobbled together before I arrived. It was like watching a finely tuned engine get swapped out for a rusted lawnmower motor. The shipping logistics platform reverted to manual entry. The automated client reporting system went offline. Real-time data analytics rolled back to weekly batch processing. The cloud backup redundancy I'd implemented vanished entirely, leaving them with a single vulnerable backup chain. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel guilty either. I felt clear. When the final confirmation appeared on my screen, I closed the laptop. Nothing exploded. No sirens blared. That was the beauty of it. Silent, controlled deconstruction. I started the car. As I drove out of the garage, Crestline Solutions looked exactly the same as it always did. Same corporate logo on the building. Same potted plants flanking the entrance. Same oblivious receptionist typing away at the front desk. But inside, the systems were already starting to choke. I didn't look back. Didn't need to. They wanted visible engagement. Fine. Let them see what the place looked like without mine. By the time I merged onto the interstate, the clouds were starting to break apart. A shaft of pale sunlight cut across the windshield, forcing me to flip down the visor. I cracked the window and let the cold air rush in. No music. No podcast. Just wind and the hum of tires on asphalt. I pulled into my driveway around 1 in the afternoon. The house was quiet, exactly as I'd left it that morning. I tossed my badge onto the kitchen counter, set my laptop beside it and filled the kettle for tea. No dramatic soundtrack. No slow-motion revenge montage. Just me, unemployed and unbothered. By 2:30 the messages started rolling in. My phone lit up like a slot machine hitting jackpot. The first text was from Austin. No greeting, no context. Just 5 words. Are you near a computer? Then came the calls. One after another, overlapping each other. Corporate headquarters. Regional managers. IT leads I hadn't spoken to in months. I didn't answer. I sat on my couch with my tea, staring out the window at a cardinal perched on my fence post. Another text from Austin. We're experiencing technical difficulties. Can you confirm system status on your end? On my end? I almost laughed. I set the phone face down on the coffee table and let it buzz itself into oblivion. The voicemails started piling up. Some were short and clipped, others bordered on frantic. Ivory, this is Leonard from infrastructure. We're seeing major latency across the board. Client portals are down. Can you jump on a call? Hey, it's Stephanie in Ops. The backup system isn't responding. Did something change overnight? Ivory, this is Garrett. We've got data sync failures in 3 offices. Atlanta, Denver, and Portland are all reporting errors. Please call back ASAP. I muted my phone. 30 minutes later, someone from logistics sent me a message on LinkedIn. Ivory, everything's falling apart. What's going on? I didn't reply. I opened my fridge, pulled out leftover pasta and ate it cold while standing at the counter. The hum of the refrigerator was louder than my phone now. I preferred it that way. By 4 o'clock, upper management got involved. A new email appeared in my inbox. Subject line, urgent, critical system failure. The body was even better. Multiple system failures have been reported across all regional offices. We need you on an emergency call immediately to address rollback anomalies and restore core functionality. Please confirm availability. I took a screenshot from my records. By dinner time, I had calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Area codes from Texas, California, New York. I let every single one go to voicemail. By the time I plugged my phone into the charger, I had 47 missed calls and counting. Another text came through from a number with no name attached. Whatever happened, we just need help fixing it. Please. I deleted it without reading it twice. I made more tea after dark. The house stayed quiet, lights dimmed, just the soft glow of my laptop sitting idle on the dining table. I didn't open it. Everything was already in motion. A new email arrived just before 9 o'clock. All 4 regional branches reporting catastrophic failures in operations, client management, and data integrity. Your immediate expertise is required. The subject line read, "Your knowledge is critical." That was almost funny. I let that one sit unread. By midnight, I had over 100 notifications. Texts, calls, emails, Slack messages stacking up like digital debris. I walked into my bedroom, placed my phone face down on the nightstand, switched it to silent, and climbed into bed. My body ached in that deep, bone-tired way it does when your brain finally stops running on adrenaline. No alarms set. No emergency escalations. Just my breathing and the quiet hum of the heating system clicking on. And that silence. I'd earned every second of it. I woke up Monday morning before my alarm clock had a chance to go off. Sunlight streamed through the blinds, cutting neat lines across the bedroom floor. My phone was still face down on the nightstand, silent and ignored. For the first time in 6 years, I didn't feel that familiar knot of dread about the week starting. I stretched, got up, and put the kettle on. The call came while the water was boiling. Unknown number. Ohio area code, but not local. I let it ring 3 times before answering. "Hello. Ivory, this is Preston Caldwell. I'm the executive vice president." His voice was smooth, polished, but there was exhaustion underneath it. The kind that comes from all-nighters and crisis meetings. I leaned against the counter and waited. "I'm glad you picked up," Preston continued. "We need to talk." "What do you want, Preston?" "No pleasantries." "Good. We're in a serious situation," he said. "The operations team is in full crisis mode. Systems across all branches are unstable. Austin didn't fully understand the scope of your contributions." I almost smiled. "Almost." Preston kept going. "We want to make this right. I'm authorized to reinstate you immediately. Significant salary increase. New title. Senior Director of Technology Infrastructure. Whatever it takes." I poured the boiling water over my tea bag and let the silence hang between us. "I'm not coming back," I said finally. He paused. "Ivory, I don't think you understand the magnitude of what's happening." "I understand perfectly. We can add equity," he said quickly. "Stock options. Expanded authority. Full control over IT operations. Austin won't be anywhere near your department. That's not the issue." His tone shifted. "Then what is?" I took a slow sip of tea. "You fired me. And while I was still employed," I continued, "I activated a rollback protocol I was legally authorized to implement. Check your own system logs." Silence on the other end. The kind of silence where you can hear someone's thoughts grinding to a halt. "I documented everything," I said. "The protocol existed. It was approved by your CTO 2 years ago. I initiated it before my termination timestamp. You can verify every action I took. That protocol has caused millions in operational disruption," Preston said, the smoothness gone from his voice now. "If this escalates, legal will." "Legal already knows," I cut in. I sent copies of every approval, every authorization, and every system log to my personal email. Dates, times, and digital signatures. All of it. He exhaled hard. "Ivory, let's not make this adversarial. You let your vice president's son fire me for taking a coffee break," I said. "This is already past adversarial." His voice dropped. "If you don't cooperate, we'll have to explore consequences." "There are no consequences for me," I said calmly. "I followed protocol. I acted within my authorization. After you terminated me, I did nothing." Another pause. Longer this time. Help us fix this, he said. For the sake of the company. That company fired me without cause, I said. I'm not obligated to save it. What about your colleagues, he pressed. People you worked with for years? They're suffering too. I thought about Leonard, who'd always respected my expertise. About Stephanie, who actually listened during meetings. About the contractors who relied on those systems to do their jobs. Then I thought about Austin leaning back in that chair, delivering his rehearsed termination speech. I'm done, I said. Preston's voice hardened. If you walk away, you're burning bridges. I already crossed the bridge, I said. You lit it on fire. There was a soft click. He'd hung up. I set the phone down on the counter and finished my tea in peace. When the mug was empty, I rinsed it, set it in the dish rack, and walked back to the living room. I settled onto the couch, phone face down again, laptop untouched on the table. Outside, it was just another cold, gray Monday in Ohio. But inside Crestline Solutions, I knew things were already unraveling. By Tuesday morning, the press caught wind of the story. Regional tech firm suffers major system collapse. One headline read. Another said, experts suspect cyber attack after widespread IT failures. I didn't correct them. The next few days turned into a slow-motion disaster. On day 3, I checked the company's public status page. The kind investors and analysts monitor. Everything was red. Service uptime 34%. Client data sync, offline. Automated reporting, disabled. Regional offices operating on manual processes. They'd even shut down remote access to prevent further security breaches. I got a notification from a tech industry forum. Thread title, What's happening at Crestline Solutions? The replies flooded in. Angry clients. Delayed projects. Missing data. People noticed fast. The company released a statement that afternoon. Something about unexpected technical disruptions due to infrastructure upgrades. No mention of rollback. No mention of me. Of course not. I scrolled through the responses while sipping my tea, watching them twist themselves into knots trying to explain why nothing worked anymore. That afternoon, Stephanie sent me a text. Everything's broken. I'm so sorry about what happened to you. I stared at the message longer than I should have. Stephanie wasn't the enemy. She was one of the few people who'd actually valued my input. She'd defended my work in meetings when others tried to take credit. Part of me wanted to respond. Something small. Some kind of acknowledgement. But then I saw it again. Austin sitting across from me in that conference room, his expression blank and indifferent as he destroyed my career over a coffee break. I locked my phone and set it aside. By Thursday, the story made national business news. Crestline's stock had dropped 14% overnight. Some analyst on a financial network said they were hemorrhaging operational capacity. Another expert speculated this could trigger a regional market correction if it continued. I didn't feel joy watching it. This wasn't revenge in the traditional sense. I hadn't touched anything since the rollback. I hadn't sabotaged a single system. I just stopped holding everything together. And without me, it cracked like cheap porcelain. Another message came in from someone in finance. I hadn't spoken to him in over a year. Ivory, please. Can you talk to someone? We're all drowning here. I didn't respond. Here's the truth. That company didn't care who I helped. They only cared who they could see. Who smiled in the right meetings. Who wore the right clothes. Who stayed visible even when their job didn't require it. And when it came time to decide whether my work mattered, they handed the decision to someone who'd never written a single line of code or configured a single server. So no, I didn't step in. I didn't fix it. I watched from my couch as the infrastructure I'd built started crumbling. They'd been so loud about their need for visible engagement. Now they could visibly deal with the consequences. I refilled my tea and turned up the volume on the news. The conference room at Vanguard Technologies smelled like coffee and ambition. I'd been here before. Twice actually. They'd reached out a year ago, then again 6 months later, both times trying to recruit me away from Crestline. I'd turned them down both times. Loyalty. Stupidity. Whatever you want to call it. This time I said yes. Elaine Walker strode in precisely on time. Late 40s, tailored suit, sharp eyes that missed nothing. She shook my hand with the confidence of someone who didn't waste time on false politeness. Ivory, thanks for coming in. The team is very excited about what you've brought to the table. I nodded, setting my laptop on the glass conference table and opening the folder beside it. Happy to be here. There were 5 people in the room. Elaine, 2 senior engineers, someone from legal, and a woman I recognized as the CFO. The legal advisor was already taking notes, his expression carefully neutral. I didn't waste time. I pulled up my presentation and clicked into a sanitized demo I'd built the previous evening. What you're about to see isn't theoretical, I said. This ran live across a multi-office environment for 2 years. Predictive infrastructure maintenance based on usage patterns, regional demand fluctuations, and historical performance data. Reduced unplanned downtime by 31%. Elaine leaned forward, eyes locked on the screen. And this was self-initiated? No formal project approval. No budget, no directive, just results, I said. I saw inefficiencies and fixed them. I advanced to the next slide. Automated client data synchronization increased processing speed by 47%. Real-time threat detection prevented 4 separate security incidents before they could escalate. System reliability went from 89% uptime to 99.4%. One of the engineers whispered, "Holy hell." Elaine's expression remained neutral, but I caught the slight upturn at the corner of her mouth. "You built all this without asking permission?" "Didn't need permission to solve problems," I said. The legal advisor finally spoke. "What about intellectual property? Anything covered under contract with your previous employer?" I'd been waiting for this. I slid a folder across the table. Everything I developed was logged under my personal credentials during non-working hours. I have documentation, timestamps, and email confirmations. My contract allowed for self-directed optimization initiatives without formal project assignment. I also included legal reviews and external counsel opinions. He flipped through the pages with the careful attention of someone who knew exactly what he was looking for. After a long moment he nodded. "Clean." Elaine waited until he looked up before speaking again. "You're not just offering tools. You're offering an entire operational framework. And the strategic oversight to implement it," I said. "If you want it." She tapped her pen against the table. "We'd want licensing first, but I'd like to explore something beyond that." I stayed quiet, letting her lead. "How would you feel about coming on full-time?" Elaine asked. "VP of Infrastructure Systems. Build your own team. Direct the rollout. Own it." I paused, not from surprise, but from the weight of hearing something I hadn't realized I wanted so badly. "I'd be very open to that," I said. Elaine glanced around the table. "Let's draft a preliminary agreement." We shook hands. Hers was firm and certain. No theatrics. No over-the-top celebration. Just business. The good kind. The kind built on mutual respect. By the time I left the building it was nearly dusk. The November wind hit me as soon as the doors slid shut, sharp and clean. I stood there for a moment watching the evening traffic crawl past on the main road. My shoulders felt lighter than they had in years. I hadn't noticed how much weight I'd been carrying until it was finally gone. I crossed the parking lot to my car, already mentally sketching out the implementation plan. I was halfway through a sandwich in Vanguard's employee cafe when the first cease and desist letter landed in my inbox. Subject line: Immediate action required. Unauthorized use of proprietary systems. I forwarded it straight to Nina, my attorney, without opening the attachment. I trusted her more than I trusted half the executives at my old company. 15 minutes later she replied, "They have no standing. I'll handle it." And she did. Her response was so precise and surgical it actually made me laugh out loud in the middle of the break room. Something about contractual oversights, documentation of termination timing, and intellectual property rights unclaimed by the previous employer at time of separation. Basically, sit down and be quiet. But they didn't. 2 days later another letter arrived. More aggressive this time. Legal threats. Demands. A detailed list of systems they claimed ownership over. Then came the email with the subject line, "Opportunity for collaboration." That one made me pause. Inside they said they'd be open to discussion regarding strategic alignment and operational continuity restoration, if I would agree to a short-term consulting engagement. NDA attached, of course. I didn't reply. I flagged it, forwarded it to Nina, and went back to sketching out network architecture diagrams for Elaine's team. But the outside world wasn't staying quiet. By the end of the week, the story exploded. Woman fired for coffee break triggers collapse of regional tech company. The headline was everywhere. LinkedIn, Twitter, Reddit, industry blogs, tech forums. The details weren't perfect, but the headlines stuck. People love that kind of narrative. I didn't say a word. I didn't post anything. I didn't leak a single detail. But social media ran with it anyway. She's a legend, one tweet read. Imagine firing the architect of your entire system because she took a 15-minute break, another said. There were memes, photoshopped images. Someone even made a t-shirt with my name on it. The company tried damage control, but they were 3 steps behind the narrative. Anonymous sources started talking to reporters. One of them confirmed Austin had personally signed off on my termination without consulting HR or the executive team. That detail really poured gasoline on the fire. My inbox came alive with messages from former coworkers, managers, directors, some apologizing, some trying to explain, a few practically begging. We didn't know it would blow up like this. Austin made the call. We couldn't stop him. Please, they're falling apart. We need your help. I read every message. I didn't respond to any of them. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even satisfied. I was just done. At Vanguard, the implementation was picking up momentum. Elaine made the announcement at the quarterly leadership meeting. New predictive infrastructure initiatives launching Q1. Major competitive advantage coming online. No one in the room asked where the technology came from. They didn't need to. Investors noticed. Analysts picked up on it. Vanguard's stock started climbing. Slowly at first, then steadily. The market liked what it saw. Meanwhile, my old company continued bleeding out in the dark, scrambling for a lifeline they'd burned with their own hands. I didn't celebrate. Didn't post victory speeches. I just kept building. Let them keep guessing. I was reviewing server load projections when my phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. I almost ignored it. Almost. Hello. Ivory, it's Preston. His voice was different now. Not tired. Defeated. I waited. I'll be direct, he said. We're prepared to offer you $22 million for full system restoration. You'd sign a comprehensive NDA. We'd clear your name internally. Quiet settlement. Clean exit. I didn't even blink. 30. Silence. 30 million, I repeated. And I'll stop you right there. I know you won't pay it. And even if you did, it wouldn't matter. Preston's voice stayed level. Too level. That's an enormous sum. So is the loss you took last week. I heard his chair creak. Probably sitting in some glass office, sleeves rolled up, the weight of a failing company pressing down on him. Even if we could meet that number, he said carefully, would you actually do it? No, I said. I can't. Can't. The systems are gone, I said. They're licensed now. Owned by Vanguard Technologies. He let out a long, slow breath. So that's it. That's it. There was a beat of silence, then the pivot. Ivory, forget the money for a moment. This is bigger than you or Austin. Hundreds of employees are being affected. Operations teams. Support staff. People you worked alongside for years. I know who I worked with, I said. Then help them, he urged. Do it for them. No. I didn't authorize your termination, he said. But you let it stand. I didn't have time to reverse it. I shook my head even though he couldn't see me. You had time. You just didn't care until the numbers tanked. He didn't respond. You let your vice president's son fire the architect for drinking coffee, I said. That's the choice you made. Preston let out a long sigh. No rebuttal. No defense. Just breath and silence. Then he hung up. I didn't stare at the phone. I tapped to stop the recording, forwarded the call to Nina with the subject line "Final Offer, Archive for Record," and went back to work. The world wasn't waiting for apologies. It kept moving, so I moved with it. The next morning I signed the offer letter. Vice President of Infrastructure Systems. Full authority. My team. My decisions. No oversight from clueless executives or nepotistic hires. Elaine congratulated me with a handshake and a quiet nod. No speeches, no fake enthusiasm. Just trust. By week's end, I had an office and 7 direct reports. At our first team meeting they came ready. Laptops open, questions sharp. Walk us through the prediction algorithm. How do you catch server degradation before monitoring flagged it? What assumptions underlie your response protocols? They listened. Took notes. Asked follow-ups.no interruptions. No searching past me for someone more credible. For the first time in years, my name appeared in bold on the project slide. Ivory Camden, lead systems architect. I started eating lunch at my desk out of habit, old conditioning. But Elaine noticed. You can actually eat lunch, you know. This place won't fall apart. So I did. Some days in the cafe with the team talking shop over coffee. Other days alone on the patio. No timer, no pressure, no invisible clock ticking. The systems responded fast. Efficiency up. Downtime down. Client satisfaction climbing. Our pilot in 2 Western regions blew past every projection. Meanwhile, Crestline kept spiraling. Rumors said they tried to rebuild what I designed, but couldn't. As it wasn't just code. It was 6 years of institutional knowledge, late nights, and intuition they never valued. Austin vanished from the org chart. No announcement, just gone. A week later, Preston resigned, pursuing personal interests. Sure. I didn't post. Didn't celebrate. Just kept building. And every day at lunch I stood up, closed my laptop and took my break, because no one would ever fire me for being human again. 3 months in, Elaine dropped a folder on my desk. Board wants a full presentation on your rollout. They're impressed. They want it rolled out company-wide. All divisions? Everyone. You'll oversee infrastructure for the entire company. I felt something unfamiliar. Not satisfaction but validation. 6 months after being fired for a coffee break, I was building something that mattered, with a team that respected expertise over optics. That evening, a news alert popped up. Crestline Solutions announces restructuring, seeks buyers. The company was being broken up. Offices closing. Hundreds laid off. An anonymous source told reporters. The infrastructure collapse was catastrophic. We never recovered. The person who built our systems was let go under questionable circumstances, and we couldn't replicate her work. I closed the article. Slipped my phone into my bag.no triumph. No vindication. Just finished. That chapter was over. This one was just beginning. I walked out into the cool evening air, sky streaked pink and orange, and drove home. No dramatic music. Just quiet. But this time I was driving towards something I'd built on my own terms. 4 months later, I stood before Vanguard's board presenting final results. 99.7% uptime. 34% cost reduction. Highest client satisfaction in company history. 62% faster response to critical issues. Silence. Then applause, led by the chairwoman. Elaine caught my eye and gave a single nod. Meant everything. Afterward, a board member named Dorothy pulled me aside. What you've done isn't just technical, it's leadership. Rare. Don't undersell it. She handed me her card. Call me. You belong on more boards than this one. I tucked it away, no deflection this time. I knew my worth. Walking back, I passed the cafe. Through the glass, my team laughed over coffee. Garrett gesturing wildly, Alicia shaking her head, smiling. I'd built more than systems. I'd built a culture, where expertise mattered more than performance. Back in my office, an email waited. Thank you from Crestline. It was from Leonard Huang, a former sysadmin. He wrote that after I left, management blamed IT for the collapse, even though they'd never had access to the core architecture. Many lost their jobs. Your work mattered more than they ever acknowledged, he said. I'm sorry it ended the way it did. I read it twice. Didn't reply. But I saved it, not for vindication but as a reminder. Good work isn't always seen in the moment. Sometimes it takes a catastrophe for people to realize what they had. That night, I found a package on my doorstep. Inside was a framed photo of my old Crestline team at a holiday party. Everyone smiling, glasses raised, and a note, "We miss you. Stephanie." I placed it next to my parents' picture, made dinner, poured wine, and read in silence. No alerts. No emergencies. Just peace. The next week, I spoke at a tech conference in Columbus. Elaine had pushed me. People need to hear from practitioners who've built real systems. So I went. No buzzwords, just hard-won truths about invisible work, system resilience, and why prevention rarely gets credit until it's too late. During Q&A, someone asked how to handle clueless leadership. Document everything, I said. Speak in business impact, not jargon. And if they still ignore you, protect yourself. Because when things break, they'll blame the people who warned them first. The room fell quiet, then erupted in applause. Afterward, a woman approached. I was at Crestline. I'm sorry. Thank you for saying what we couldn't. She walked off before I could reply. That evening, over Italian food, Elaine raised her glass. You deserve to be heard. We talked about Vanguard's growth and my future. Do you ever wonder what if Crestline hadn't fired you? She asked. Sometimes, I said. But I might have stayed too long. Sometimes you need the push, even off a cliff, to learn you can fly. Within a year, my team grew to 23. Vanguard thrived. My name surfaced in industry press, not by design but because results speak. Then came an offer I couldn't ignore. CTO of Apex Systems, full autonomy, equity, a board seat. Veronica Tate said plainly, we know what happened at Crestline. That won't happen here. I took 2 weeks to decide. Talked to Elaine. Researched Apex. In the end, I said yes, not for the title but for the chance to build something new from scratch. I gave 3 months' notice. Trained my replacement, Alicia, who'd been with me since Vanguard's early days. On my last day, the team threw a quiet party. Pizza, laughter, a signed card. You taught us expertise matters more than ego, Alicia said. You already knew that, I replied. I just gave you permission to act on it. Leaving didn't feel like an ending. It felt like gratitude. At Apex, Veronica showed me an empty office. This is yours, she said. Build it however you want. I spent the first 2 weeks drafting Apex's org structure, defining roles and hunting for problem solvers, not pedigree. I ran months of interviews with real-world challenges instead of theory. One standout, Kira, solved a system architecture test 3 ways and explained the trade-offs between speed, cost, and scalability. There's never just one right answer, she said. I hired her on the spot. Within 6 months, I'd built a team of 18 experts I trusted to make critical calls independently. No hierarchy. Just distributed competence. 9 months in, we launched an infrastructure platform for mid-sized businesses stuck between basic cloud tools and enterprise budgets. The response was immediate. 50 clients in 3 months, 206. Analysts took notice. Apex Systems has quietly become a major player, led by CTO Ivory Camden, whose reputation for technical excellence precedes her. I ignored the press. I just kept building. 2 years in, I got an email from Dr. Helen Ortiz, a Northwestern professor researching workplace retaliation and system dependencies. She wanted to interview me about Crestline. Your case has become a key example, she wrote. I almost passed. But I thought of Leonard, of all the people blamed for failures they didn't cause. If my story could spare someone else that pain, it was worth telling. We met off campus. She asked sharp, thoughtful questions. Did I regret the rollback? No, I said. I regret that it had to happen, but not that I protected my work. My only real regret? Not documenting more to shield others from blame. Her paper later coined the Camden effect, a term now used in business schools to describe organizational collapse from undervaluing essential, invisible expertise. 5 years after Crestline, Stephanie, my old colleague, walked into my Apex office. What happened to you was wrong, she said. I should have spoken up. We talked like no time had passed. As she left, she added, you changed how I see my own worth. That night, driving home through Chicago's glittering skyline, I realized the real victory wasn't the title or the success. It was the ripple. The way my choice taught others to defend their value. On my porch with a glass of wine, I finally saw it clearly. My worth was never theirs to decide. I'd always known it. They just needed a catastrophe to catch up. And honestly, that was their problem, not mine. Because the best revenge isn't burning bridges. It's building something so extraordinary you forget you were ever mad. Essential work doesn't vanish when you walk away. IT leaves a hole nothing else can fill. Let that be the lesson.